Hey there, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed. Let's talk the G7 chord. We'll talk about how to play this puppy, other chords that it plays nice with, and things to avoid common mistakes people make when playing the G7 chord. If you enjoy this, please subscribe to this channel, and we'll talk all kind of things guitar. Okay, with this G7 chord, first off, let's just look at this grid right here. So the lines that go up and down represent the strings from low sounding to high sounding, from left to right. The side to side lines represent the frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And up above, we have X's and O's, in this case only O's. And that means play with no fingers on, just play the open string. So with this chord, you'll see the third finger, third fret of the sixth string, second finger, second fret of the fifth string, and then way over here, we have the first finger on the first fret of the first string. So this is a challenging chord for a lot of people because of this big stretch here between the 1 and the 2. And just to get this in the hand, so the challenges here are in when our fingers flop over and mute out the strings next to it. So first off, just getting this first finger over here in general is one challenge. And then getting it over there where the second finger doesn't flop over and touch the fourth string, or the third finger doesn't flop over and mute out the fifth string. So we'll talk all about these issues here. As we're doing this, one of the things that we can look at is the hand in line with the forearm? We don't want any extreme angles like this or anything else like that. We don't want to do this. Likewise, we don't want to glue the side of the hand to the top of the guitar or to the bottom of the guitar neck right here. So we want to keep things free and loose so that we can just bounce from one chord to the next all over the place if we need to, without having to unglue and then move and then reglue. So doing that, keeping the thumb behind the fingers is another great tip here. So the way that we normally, many of the chords, we come into the strings at an angle. So if we play an A chord, we play a D chord, we're coming in at this type of angle, right? Well, if we do that with this chord, it's gonna make a really severe crimp in this first finger, right? And so one of the things that we can do is we can drop this down a little bit and put more space into the hand. And so that means that the first finger is kind of it's doing this pronating or supinating move. No, pronating move. It's pressing into the guitar neck with the side of the foot. Keep away from the scientific terms there. It's pressing into the side of the finger whenever we press the neck. So it's pressing in right here instead of on the very tip or anything. So it's pressing in on the side, and we're doing that by kind of kicking back like this with it. And then that's one of the ways that we can make this easier to play, is we do it that way and then come in with our second and third fingers. And that can make that a little bit easier. So instead of right on the tip, we can play on the side. So that's one thing. To do that, we're actually going to tuck the elbow. Look at my elbow here. We actually need to get the hand like this so that we're extending that way. And that makes the G7 chord much easier to do that. Most chords, we don't want to tuck the elbow. With this chord, we do want to tuck the elbow if we play it in this way. And that can give us a little bit of space. Also with the curve of the fingers, so keeping in this position, if we're muting strings out by flopping over too much, then we can do that by adjusting the thumb on the back. So we can just move up and back, and I'm just moving my thumb up and down, and that's going to increase the curve of the fingers. And so you can just do that just a little bit just to clear those strings, and then we have it. So that's one way. As you do this, if you haven't done this move before, then it's a lot of finicky little movements, and so it might be difficult for you, and that would be completely normal. You wouldn't be weird if that was the case. It's not like other people have an easier time with this chord. But one of the things that you can do is practice putting on. So do it, shake it out, bring it back, and just think about, where's my elbow, where's my wrist, where are my fingers, how am I going about this? And look at this as a multi-step thing. It's just not play a G7 chord. Instead it's, okay, I'm gonna put my elbow down like this, I'm gonna extend my fingers, I'm going to press on the side of the index finger while it's extending back like this. And if I need to, I can lift my thumb a little bit just to get those fingers curving just a little bit more. So all of these are separate steps. Eventually they'll combine into just one thing, just like drive your car is one thing, whereas at the very beginning it was a lot of things, a lot of individual little things. So that's one way to do it. If we are up here and we want to do this and we want to keep it this way, oftentimes we see this chord with a C chord. We'll talk more about other chords that it works with, but we oftentimes have a C chord, and a C chord does come into this, the strings do come in at an angle like this. And so as we do this, we can think of the G7 as an exploded C. We take it and then the second and third fingers move up in space and the first finger moves down in space. So we're here and then it moves here. So with that in mind, you can play and keep it in the same position, and you can do that. And so that's not doing it like we were just talking about. It's a different way. And that's going to be, it takes a little bit more strength in the hand. It's a little bit more strenuous, but if you're just playing back and forth, then it could be a better way for you because it's less movement around. However, you should just know that there is more of a stretch between the fingers that way, and you might end up muting some fingers out or something. Again, it's all about the thumb position and your hand position, whether your fingers are coming in straight on top of the strings like this, or whether they're laying over. If your thumb is too high, they'll lay over. If your neck is too low, woe be to you, because this is a very difficult chord to play without buzzing strings if you're playing with a low neck. Get your neck up in space. You can use a throw pillow, you can raise a foot, you can do whatever you need to do. Play with a strap, but raise that neck up, and that'll make it easier. If you're too low, then what's going to happen is your thumb's going to come way up here and your fingers are going to flatten out. And so it's much more difficult with a low angled neck to play this chord and have it sound clear. So as you're practicing it then, one of the things you can do is practice just touching, because a lot of people have excess tension issues with this chord. So what you can do is put your fingers onto the strings, but don't press. Touch, and then move, and then touch, and then move, and then touch, and then move. And practice not gripping, not clamping as soon as you touch the strings. And it's a great habit to get out of anyway, because a lot of beginners can't touch a string without actually playing it. They can't just touch a string. So it's a wonderful practice to get into anyway. So do that, touch it, and then go. And then touch, press, and then move it. Touch, press, shake it out. Touch, press, shake it out. However you want to practice that as much as possible. Same thing, going between chords, you can do that. Release, go to the next chord, release, go to this chord, release. And whenever you're practicing this, think of all the different steps that we talked about. Tuck the elbow if that's what you're doing, and doing all of those little ones, and then let it be okay that it takes a while to get through those, because they will combine into just one thing, just like driving your or cooking an egg or anything else that you do. So other chords that play nice with G7 most commonly is a C chord. So practicing getting between the C chord and the G7 chord is great. You may oftentimes see a C7 as well. If you're playing any sort of blues-based thing, then you can see that in there within the G7. That's going to be the most common. The reason being, all of the seven chords have this ugly interval in them. Two notes that clash. A few hundred years ago, you could be like excommunicated and burnt if you wrote a song that had that particular combination of notes in it, because it was considered very satanic to play such notes as that. And so now we've become used to them in our ear, but it was a really big deal at one time. And that ugly interval wants to resolve to a very pretty interval. And an interval is just the distance between the two notes. So that second string and first string want to resolve to the two notes of the upper with the C chord. So it really pulls our ear towards the C chord, and that's what a 7 chord does. A 7 chord brings us, it pulls our ear to another chord. They rarely, except in blues, they rarely act as kind of a home base. They're typically a pointer saying, here we go over here to this other chord. And so G7 wants to take us to C. And so that's typically the one that we're going to see. You could see other chords, but 99% of the time, if you find a G7 chord, your very next chord will be the C chord. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. Good practicing with the G7 chord. It's very versatile. You'll find it in a lot of classical guitar music, a lot of every kind of music, honestly. Most genres use the G7 in spades. So enjoy, have fun, and good luck. Please do subscribe to this channel, and we'll do it again. Bye-bye.